had a flock of these little woolly beings chasing after him, bleating as well. Like it was loud. They were all going, I'm going to do my best sheep impression now for you all. They were all going, meh. Donkeys are like little ninjas. They're like stealth spies who have little hooves, and because they're a little bit smaller, they just kind of... Hello everybody and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. As I promised in the previous episode, today we're going to be going over some horse horror stories. Now, I don't mean about ghosts or ghouls because, you know, it is coming up to Halloween. However, there are some moments with horses where they get your heart racing. There are things that go wrong, things that maybe are a little bit scarier as being like a horse owner or person who looks after horses. But before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you to Red Post for sponsoring the podcast. Red Post is an equestrian and country store based in the UK, but they also ship all over the world, and I thought I would let you know about the Red Post app. When you download the Red Post app for your first purchase, you actually get 5% off, which is so good. So if you're thinking about buying that new helmet or buying that new pair of boots or whatever, be sure to do that. Also, the Red Post app has some really great early bird offers, especially as, hint, I don't know if it's a bit early to say, but Black Friday is coming up soon. I know that Red Post do some epic Black Friday sale offers. But anyway, let's get into the podcast. I actually have a list. Again, I say this all the time. I make a little list before I do the podcast, like kind of like bullet points of what I want to talk about to try and keep me on track. Because a lot of the time, you guys know, I start going on a tangent. I start going off here, there, everywhere, talking about something else. But anyway, I thought I would, again, as I said, talk about some horsey horror stories. All right, so this first story is going to be all about, I feel like I should have like properly like given these all like a scary kind of like title, a bit like a ghost story kind of thing. But yeah, this first story is about Casper's terrifying first experience with sheep. Now, when we first got Casper, he hadn't really done like any hacking that we know of, like going across bridle paths, riding on the road. Actually, the first time I rode him on the road, he'd never seen like a parked car before, or he probably had, but I don't know, he found it terrifying. As we walked past it, he did a 180, span away, and just kind of cantered down the road with little 12-year-old me holding on for dear life, petrified. So there we go. That was an interesting experience. But anyway, back onto, our first ever time on the bridle path probably wasn't until, I want to say, like March, April time. And that's just because the weather was so bad. We got him, January 2014. So that was also the year where over here where we are, there were so many floods, like it just rained the whole time. So the bridle path was so boggy and so wet that we couldn't take him across there because it would have been a bit dangerous. So anyway, first time we took Casper across the bridle path, we were like, oh dear, I've just realised this horse has never seen sheep in his entire life. So this could be interesting. So anyway, take him on through. First field, fine. The sheep are kind of in, like, quite far away. They clock us, but it's fine. We carry on moving. It's all good. I'm walking. I got my family by my side. It's all good. And then we go into the next field. Now, in the next field, I don't know if these sheep, maybe they hadn't seen a horse for a while because obviously the weather had been so bad and the ground was so bad and they didn't take nobody was really taking their horse across the bridle path. Or if it was what we think it was, the sheep at that time probably, again, didn't see many people across the bridle path because it was winter and horrible weather. Like, who wants to go for a walk in horrible weather? Equestrians and dog owners and other people. I mean, I'm included. But anyway, a lot of the time, the people that they were used to seeing was the farmer who would come and give them sheep nuts or like sheep pellets. I think they're called sheep nuts. That sounds funny, like pony nuts. But anyway, carrying on. So they were used to being fed that time of year because, again, it was a bit flooded. There wasn't much grass. Like, the ground just wasn't that great. Very muddy. So anyway, the sheep saw Casper and they started following us. And I thought, oh, they're getting a little bit closer. They're getting a little bit closer until the sheep got closer and closer, and then they started running. And then poor Casper, who had never seen sheep in his entire life, had a flock of these little woolly beings chasing after him, bleating as well. Like, it was loud. They were all going, I'm going to do my best sheep impression now for you all. They were all going, meh, meh. And it literally, like, it sounded almost like, I don't know, it sounded like zombies almost, because they were all going, meh. And Casper was like, what in my life is going on? Like, why have these strange people that I've known for only a few months taken me to this place with all these like little horses that are way fluffier chasing after me? So obviously Casper started to get a little bit nervous, and when Casper gets nervous, he does like a few different things. He either spins around and runs away, or what he was doing, he was being like, he was a very good boy, because I was like, no, Casper, it's okay, calm down. He does this thing where he kind of jogs on the spot, like basically in a weird Connemara pony non-dressage horse way. He tries and does like a bit of a piaffe. He's like trotting on the spot. I always get piaffe and passage. That is a real mouthful. I always get piaffe and passage mixed up, but I'm pretty sure piaffe is the one where it's on the spot. I am a show jumper, not a dressage rider. But anyway, he was doing that. He was jogging on the spot, going up and down, like, I don't know what's happening here. Please look after me. I am scared. And then the problem was, we got to the fence where the gate was. Now, I got cut off from, I can't remember if it was my mum or my dad that went on this hack with me. I think it was my mum, who's like not horsey at all, so don't blame her at all. But she's also quite small. She's like 5'3", and I think with her little legs, she got a little bit, like me and Casper obviously going a little bit faster, trying to get away from the sheep, and I think she got left behind. So anyway, me and Casper ended up being surrounded by sheep, away from my mum. My mum couldn't get through to get to the gate. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try and just like go round the sheep and go back to my mum. So I walked kind of like along the fence line. Now this fence, bear in mind, is made of barbed wire. And then we couldn't escape. It was awful. The sheep, they were coming in on us, and Casper was freaking out. And Casper, obviously, with all these sheep coming near him, started backing up. And that was when I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in a horror film. I am on a horse that I barely know, who is terrified of sheep, with all these sheep around us, who is now backing up almost into a barbed wire fence. So my instinct was, I'm going to do an emergency dismount, jumped off. I had my stick in my hand, which I never use on my horses, like, at all. But I like to carry it as like a safety device, if that makes sense. Sometimes, like, if a car is going too fast, I'll stick my hand out and then like my arms a little bit longer to get them to slow down. But anyway, I dismounted off Casper, had my stick in my hand, and I was kind of gently waving it. And I felt like I was parting a sea. I was like moving the stick from side to side, kind of like as a gentle, like, and I was kind of like saying, okay, back up everybody, get out the way. Casper and I are coming through, kind of thing. And luckily, the sheep did part. I managed to lead Casper forward and calm him down, so he was still jogging on the spot, but at least he wasn't backing up into a barbed wire fence, because that would have been awful. I don't want to imagine what would have happened if that had happened. So anyway, I was leading Casper through, waving my stick side to side, and we managed to get through. And I got back to my mum and I was like, should we go home? Because all the sheep were just in front of the gate and we were like, we're not going to get through there. And she was like, yeah, good idea. Anyway, Casper, I've now had him for 10 years. He has gone past the sheep multiple times without them chasing us. And to be fair, he wasn't that traumatized the next time I took him through. I think it was just that all these kind of sheep were around him. So there we go. The moral of the story is, if your horse is going to back up into a barbed wire fence, if you can do an emergency dismount safely and lead them forward, that's probably better than your horse backing up into a barbed wire fence. So there we go. That is the first horror story that we have been through today. I feel like this probably isn't the best podcast to listen to if you go to sleep. I have had a few people message me being like, I love listening to your podcast before I go to sleep, like to have time off screens or time off like your phone or that kind of thing. Like they just have it playing on the side and then have like a sleep timer and then go to sleep to it. This is, I don't know, I feel like this is like more of a high stress level podcast to listen to, but there we go. If you're going to sleep, sweet dreams. That sounded really creepy. Anyway, I feel like actually most of my podcasts I'd say are probably more on the higher energy level scale. So I'm not really like an ASMR channel. I'm not going to be like whispering to you to go to sleep. But anyway, enjoy. Okay, now I don't really know which story to do next. So I've got quite a few. I don't really know what order to do them in. We will do. I feel like. Okay, no, it's fine. I was going to say I feel like these all involve a horse escaping, but the first one hasn't. The first one, Casper, was good. He stayed with me. He followed me behind me. Anyway, yeah, this next one is about when the donkeys have escaped. Now, the donkeys have probably escaped quite a few times before. I feel like compared to horses, they are little escape artists. And unlike a horse, a lot of horses, I know not all of them, have shoes. And they just have generally bigger hooves. You can hear them coming a lot more. Donkeys are like little ninjas. They're like stealth spies who have little hooves, and because they're a little bit smaller, they just they sneak about, they creep about, and also they're pretty crafty, they're pretty clever as well. So yeah, if you leave a gate, it looks like it's closed but it's not quite on the latch, they will find it. They will rub their bums against that gate and they will go. If there's a bit of fence that's maybe a little bit loose, maybe there's a little hole somewhere, they will get through it. They are clever and they're always hungry and looking for food. So anyway, our donkeys are a little bit older now. So something that we do, because my grandparents live next door to my parents and obviously where the donkeys are. So we thought, you know what? It's been winter. The grass has grown quite long. You know, it's that kind of awkward stage where the grass has grown quite long, but it's a bit too wet to mow. So we thought, you know what? We'll put the donkeys in the little grassy patch in between my grandparents' house and my parents' house, and a bit of like my grandparents' garden as well, and that kind of thing. So we made this like big electric fence kind of thing. But the thing is, the donkeys, they know electric fences, and they're normally pretty good at knowing not to touch them. Like they've had some electric fence experiences. So anyway, we thought, you know what? They're all old. They can't walk very fast or go very fast. We won't put the electric fence on. Anyway, one evening, my dad comes down to get a glass of water because he was quite thirsty in the night. And he was looking out the window as he was drinking this refreshing glass of water. And he thinks, oh, I can see something moving. Was it a ghost? Was it a ghoul? Was it a bird? Was it a plane? No, it was Willow. And she was walking up the driveway. And I think my dad probably thought, is that Willow or am I dreaming? Am I awake? And then he realised, oh no, that's Willow walking up the driveway. And then he thought, where's Bruno and Toby? Willow's always behind them. She's a little bit slower than them because she's got her arthritis. So my dad, just wearing his boxers, just wearing his underwear, put on some wellies, opened the back door, ran up the driveway, just in his pants, and was like, sorry, underwear for my American viewers. Pants in the UK means like underwear. Anyway, so he was just, in his pants, running up the driveway after these donkeys. I'm glad that we live in a road where we have like no neighbours. Like as a kid when I grew up, people would always be like, oh yeah, like talking about like their neighbours, and like kids at school would be like, oh yeah, like I'm best friend with like my neighbour and that kind of thing. And I would just be like, oh, my neighbours are cows, and they would just think I was being really rude about my neighbours, but literally like the people that have a field next door, like they have cows. So anyway, so luckily nobody, I believe, saw my dad in his pants and wellies running basically naked through the village after the donkeys. Apparently they hadn't got that far because the kind of verge outside had a lot of grass on it, so Bruno and Toby were just there tucking in, having the time of their life, and Willow was kind of just slowly plodding along trying to catch up. So don't worry, no donkeys were injured or harmed. Everyone was all good. And normally, we are a very secure compound. We I don't know why, I don't know if I already said this before, but we sometimes call the farm or the property the compound because my grandparents lived there as well, and it would kind of like be a joke, like whenever they would leave, we would see them leaving from our house, and we'd be like, you've left the compound, what have you done? Because they don't really leave that often. They're very happy like being at home doing gardening, that kind of thing. So anyway, the donkeys had left the compound. That was maybe even the furthest Willow has probably ever gone in her life, because Willow was born in the field or on the farm, and she's never left. Like, that's probably the furthest she's gone. Because of her arthritis, she can't walk very far, and she's never been in the horse box before. Bruno and Toby have, when Bruno had to go to hospital to have his surgery, to have, like, teeth taken out and stuff. But I don't think Willow has ever gone anywhere. So that was probably the furthest Willow's gone on her little adventure. And then again, yeah, we've taken Bruno and Toby to, like, up into the village for kids to see them at Christmas and things, with little tinsel on, which is very cute. Sorry, this is supposed to be a Halloween podcast, not a, Christmas one. I mean, I don't know if it's October, it's near end of October. I feel like you can just about start saying, the C word, the Christmas word. But anyway, back onto the donkeys. So they were all scooped back into their paddock. Electric fence was put on. I can't remember if we just decided, they're old, we're not going to put the electric fence on, or if, like, maybe the electric fence was charging, like, the battery, and we were just like, one night it'll be fine. But anyway, we've learned from that. The donkeys are pretty crafty. And to be fair, they had a lot of grass in their field, so I don't know what they were complaining about. Like, they had loads. So I don't know, grass is always greener on the other side. Grass is always greener on the verge, but we are very lucky to live, like, in the middle of nowhere, so there's, like, barely any traffic, any people, any cars on the road. I mean, thank goodness, because I don't think anybody wants to see my dad half naked, but there we go. That was the second horse horror story. I wasn't even involved. I was tucked up in bed asleep. I was, just dreaming about happy dreams, I guess. So yeah, that was a scarier moment for my dad then. I feel like this is the worst one next. I don't know how to go about this. My dad might have to be involved with this one, and it might have to, like, state some facts as I talk about it, because this horse horror story actually happened before I got Mickey. So that long ago. I think I was probably about 7 at the time, I want to say 7 or 8, and I don't know where to go with this story. I feel like I'm gonna make it so you guys are as in the dark as I was at the time. So anyway, there was this one day, me and my friend, we were at school, normal day, I think it was like a Wednesday or something, just like a normal day, and at home time, we went outside waiting for our parents. Well, oh, no one's here for us. That's a little bit weird. Anyway, normally my parents were pretty, like, they were, like, there straight away. Like, my mum would be the sort of mum that would, like, chat to all the parents and that kind of thing. Like, there would always be someone there, and we're like, oh, that's a bit strange. Anyway, eventually, like, don't worry, we weren't, like, the last to be picked up. Like, my granddad was there. He came and picked us up, and I feel like this is something that, like, schools nowadays are, like, a lot more strict on. Like, if, like, I don't know, like, I feel like nowadays you have to, like, don't you have to, like, ring up or something to say that someone, that, like, not the mum and dad are picking up, or parent or guardian is picking up the child, like, being like, oh yeah, like, grandparents picking up today, or oh yeah, grandparents is picking up, like, or, like, basically my granddad was picking up not only me but also, like, my friend as well. So don't worry, this isn't the start to something like a really, really bad story. This does involve horses. So anyway, me and my friend were picked up from school by my granddad, and remember when we got in the car, I was like, oh, how come, my friend's coming for, like, tea tonight? I didn't, like, realise she was coming around tonight. I, like, didn't know about this, and we were just excited. We're like, yes, girls' night, that kind of thing. So anyway, actually, to put this into a little bit more context, my friend, her older brother had a horse called Bradley, which is the one that we loaned / leased before we got Mickey. So basically the way it kind of worked was Bradley's owners got to keep Bradley for free on the kind of yard and that kind of thing, or on the farm. It wasn't really even a yard at the time. Like, we had like a little barn for the donkeys and a bit of grass, and that was it. Like, no stand school, no stables, nothing, no tack room. So anyway, in return, I got to ride Bradley every now and again, and they like obviously like mucked him out and sometimes helped muck out the donkeys, which was very kind of them, and that kind of thing. So anyway, we were like, we're going to ride. Like, we were just like excited about what we were going to do, because sometimes my friend would ride Bradley too and would like ride together. And my friend's mum very kindly like taught me a lot about how to care for a horse, like how to tack up a horse, all that kind of stuff too. So still very, very grateful to her, because my parents aren't horsey at all. But anyway, my granddad was like, oh, maybe not. And I was like, oh, how come you've picked us up? And he was like, oh, the vets are here and everyone's, you know, with the vets. And little us were like, oh, what's, you know, we just thought, oh, it's like vaccinations or something like that. Like, my granddad seemed like a little bit stressed, but you know, when like an adult is stressed, but they don't come across stressed. But if you're another adult, you'd probably be like, something's wrong. But as a kid, you'd just be like, all right. So we were just like chilled. Went to the local primary school together. So anyway, we arrived and we were like, oh, let's go over and see what's happening. Anyway, let me take you back to the reason why the vets were there. So my granddad, so at the time we had a big rat problem. There were rats everywhere, like in the feed room, that kind of thing, eating the food, that kind of stuff. So my granddad was like, I'm going to get some rat poison, some rat bait, and try and get rid of the rats. Again, I was not involved in any of this. I was an 8-year-old child at school at the time. So what happened was, my granddad was going down to one of the stores down the field, and in the back of the quad bike, he had a sealed tub of rat poison. Can I tell you, this was like properly sealed, like lid on everything. My granddad thought, oh, you know, the horses are in the field, but they're like way out in the other corner. So he got out off the quad bike, went to open the gate, as he normally would, like to go down to the bottom of the field and that kind of thing, like normal. As he went back, like literally turned around after opening the gate and saw that Bradley, my lone pony, my friend's pony, had cantered or galloped down the field. Now this boy was a cob, and he was a greedy cob. Like, he loved his food. Bradley did. So anyway, Bradley opened up the tin of rat poison. I don't know how he physically even did this. Like, this horse was crafty. He was clever. And then started eating the rat poison. And we were, well, I wasn't there, but my granddad was like, oh no, I have messed up big time. So yeah, that was definitely a bit of a horse horror story for him. So of course, straight away rang up the vet, straight away like called my parents being like, the vet's coming, I don't know what to do. And then my parents rang up my friend's mum and dad being like, I think my dad has accidentally poisoned your horse. Everyone came rushing over, vet came. And now the thing with horses is, if you didn't know this, if you're not horsey, horses can't throw up. So it's not like if, you know, someone eats something bad, you can like throw it up and hopefully get that out of your system. So I found out, well, when I arrived at the yard, little 7-8-year-old me, I saw Bradley there with a tube up his nose, and they were basically flushing everything out of his stomach. I remember this very vividly, actually, as a child, because all the rat poison, I think, was bright red. So we can see all of this like bright red kind of grain or oats. I don't know what was on the poison or whatever, but some sort of stuff just like coming out of his nose with all this liquid that they obviously used to pump it out. Again, I'm really sorry if you're eating. This, again, might not be the best podcast to listen to while you're eating. But anyway, I'm one of those people, again, I don't find much stuff squeamish. But anyway, and then we thought, because I'm pretty sure the antidote to this poison or the poison is vitamin K. And I remember this very vividly because I remember finding this so fascinating. And at the time when I was that age, I really wanted to be a vet when I was older. So I absorbed all of this information. And I remember all of us thinking, oh no, Bradley's got to eat. I can't remember how many tablets it was, but it was like a lot of tablets. It was like, Bradley's got to take 30 vitamin K tablets. Like, how are we going to get 30 tablets down this horse? And we just put it in a bucket. And he was so greedy. He just downed all of these vitamin K tablets. And the vet was like, oh, I can see why he ate poison now. Like, so don't worry. Like, Bradley was completely fine. They actually ended up selling him like a few years later, and he went off to a lovely like owner who did like pony club games and gymkhanas with him and that kind of thing. Like, it would be so interesting to see if somebody knows this Bradley, or if Bradley is out there somewhere still, because that would be so lovely. Because he was like, obviously Mickey is my first pony and my first horse, but he was like one of my like first horses that I learnt so much to do on him, like learn how to tack up and started doing a bit of jumping with him and that kind of thing. So he was definitely like he was more of a boy's pony though, if you know what I mean. Like, he was very boisterous and that kind of thing. Like, he just wasn't quite right for me to have as like my own pony, so that's why we didn't buy him. But he was a pretty cool horse. He was one of those like super cobs that was really good at jumping, but I think he was just like, he was great like on the lead rein and that kind of thing, but I think he just started to get like, he was just like used to a bigger, stronger teenage boy, and it just wasn't quite right for me at the time, because I was only like 7, 8, and I think at that time also when they were selling him, my parents were like, yeah, we're not ready for a horse yet. So anyway, all was forgiven. I'm actually still in contact with my friend's mum, actually. She's really lovely, and my friend. But yeah, so yeah, that is the story of Bradley and the horse, not the horse poison, that would be really bad, the rat poison. Obviously, like, everything's all good. Like, my granddad has learned to not do that again, and you know, it wasn't really anybody's fault. He didn't realize that Bradley was gonna cant down and then also be able to get into a sealed tin. So yeah, that was a little bit of a scarier horse story. I hope nobody ever has to experience that. But then again, with horses, unfortunately, they are creatures that do like to try and kill themselves at some stage. Like, Joey had his accident. I won't talk about that, because even though I feel like I've talked about it so many times now, that I am at the stage where I'm almost like kind of numb to it. Like, when it was a little bit more fresh, like when Joey was still like recovering and that kind of thing, like, I would not be able to tell that story without crying. Now I know my boy is safe, he is fine. He is actually, today, a little fun fact about what Joey's been up to. Joey has been let out into his new winter paddock. Oh my gosh, that boy was so excited. He, like, you know, he's excited because normally, like, there's 2 different levels of excited with Joey. There's a, oh my gosh, there's so much food, I'm going to eat the food. And then there's, oh my gosh, there's so much food, I'm so excited, I can't even eat the food yet. I need to, like, show everyone how excited I am. So sorry, I had a little hiccup then. So he would just, like, bust his moves, like, back legs above his head, zooming around, showing off, especially showing off to Casper as well, because Casper isn't quite allowed in the new winter paddock yet. Like, Casper can put on weight so much easier than Joey, so that's why they're currently in separate paddocks, although they are next to each other. So Casper's gone in Joey's old paddock that Joey is kind of mowed down, which is next to Mickey and Duke. And then Joey's gone in one further along, which is like the big grassy one. Hopefully, once Joey has mown down that grass a little bit more, we can put Joey and Casper in that same paddock together, because it is quite a big one as well. So that would be really lovely, just because we do have to be so careful of Casper's weight. So, and then Joey is half thoroughbred, so we're like, no, Joey, put the weight on, especially coming up to winter. And Joey has ridden quite a bit more than Casper. Now Casper's a little bit of an older gentleman. But anyway, yeah, that was probably the scariest horse horror story I have for you all. I think we have time for one more horse horror story. And It's more of an embarrassing story, actually, and this one involves Mickey. So I remember, I think it was my first year at Pony Club Camp. Actually, I don't know why I remember this so vividly. Mickey, as you guys know, is also another greedy pony. And where we would park the horse trailer and, like, car and that kind of thing, we would obviously tie Mickey up to the back of the horse trailer to a bit of baler twine, so it's all safe, don't worry. And there would always be this kind of like semicircle of grass that had been eaten, because obviously grass is way tastier than hay or haylage, so it would almost be like a little crop field or crop patch, you know, like in alien films where there's like crop circles. Mickey would make his own crop circles where he'd just like mow down the grass in these little patches, because where we did this was Pony Club Junior Camp. I never did a senior camp with Mickey just because I outgrew him. He was getting all his like health conditions and things back then as well. So anyway, this was junior camp, our first camp, because I didn't start Pony Club Camp at minis. Like, I was too old by the time I joined. But anyway, so yeah, Mickey was mowing this grass, that kind of thing. And I don't know if he was just trying to reach a little bit of grass that was a bit longer, a bit outside, you know, his little crop patch or crop field that he'd like made. And something happened. The lead rope, I think it was the lead rope rather than the baler twine, completely snapped in half. Now, I think this was the same lead rope that we literally got when we got Mickey, like from his previous owners. So that snapped, and then Mickey was free. Mickey decided to show off to everyone that he was now free. I think it was my mum at the time who was at camp. So at the time, okay, so the way that Pony Club Camp for me would work at juniors is you'd come into camp each day and then you'd take your horse home and you'd go home and sleep. So it wasn't like a sleepover kind of camping kind of thing. But anyway, so I think this was like near the end of the week. It was like a Thursday or Friday. And Mickey was trotting around. Now, if you wonder where my mum was sitting on a deck chair next to him. So obviously when she realised Mickey was set free or got tangled in this lead rope that had snapped, she was running after him. Again, with her like little legs trying to catch up with this pony. And then I was actually swimming at the time because there was a swimming pool at my Pony Club Camp. So basically after lunch, each like group had like a time slot, and I remember our time slot was the last time slot. So I can't remember if Mickey had a saddle on or not, but my mum had like half tacked him up but maybe just hadn't put the bridle on. So I could go swimming and wasn't in like an entire rush trying to like get changed and get all like my body protector on and like my boots and hat and everything and hairnet before like getting ready kind of thing. So anyway, I remember walking back from swimming with my friend's mum, and we looked up and there was this Cremello pony squealing and running around camp with, I think he had like his saddle like on, but obviously the girth maybe wasn't done up all the way because he was just like still chilling there. So the saddle was skew with, his stirrup was like hanging in the breeze, swishing behind him as he was running. And I was like, whose horse is that? And then I realised, that's my horse. So anyway, we ran after Mickey. He didn't actually run for that long because he then realised, why am I showing off to everyone that I'm free when there is all this grass on the floor here that I can eat? So he had a big old grass vest, eating away like the pig that he is. And yeah, that was that. We managed to catch him. It was all good. I think he actually broke one of the peacocks off my safety stirrups. I feel like people don't have these sort of stirrups anymore. Maybe in like the showing world, it's like quite a common thing. But basically, this is a very like UK type stirrup, I think. Or it's like a metal iron, kind of like in like an L or a C shape. So half of it is metal, and then the other half is got like basically this rubber band, which is called a peacock, I'm pretty sure. From my memory, I haven't had those sort of stirrups for ages. They're more like a child stirrup, I think. Anyway, one of the peacocks broke, so I think we ended up literally like using like a hairband instead, which again, you know, better than nothing. So there we go. That was the story of how Mickey decided, you know what, this bit of grass here, it's a little bit more tasty. I'm gonna go on a mad one. So yeah, I think they're the only horse, well, touch wood, luckily. I mean, I don't want to cause any more horse horror stories to come from saying this. I feel like maybe in one episode I'd love to hear some stories from you guys, so maybe I'll have to like set up something that you guys can send me comments and we can go through them. Tell you what we could do, if you're watching this on YouTube, you could leave me the horse horror stories down below, and maybe next week we can go through if I find some really, really good ones. So if you're doing that, or if you're listening to this podcast on a different podcast provider and you want to leave yours, go onto my channel, find the video, leave your comment. You can be like, say if you want to be anonymous as well, or if you want to shout out and want me to like shout out your horse's name or your name, whatever, then we could do that could be fun. So anyway, they're my horse horror stories. I hope you all have a lovely, I was going to say Halloween. I feel like this is a little bit early for Halloween, but I wanted to put it out like a little bit, like I was going to say near, like not too near Halloween. So if like you've been busy and you're like, oh, I forgot to catch up with the Esme's Country Life podcast, then it's not like, oh, it's a Halloween one. Halloween's already been and gone. You can be like, oh yeah, get in the festive. Do you say festive for Halloween? Is that like a thing, like festive spirit? Let me know in the comments as well, because I don't think that's a thing. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Thank you for listening. I also want to say a huge thank you to How am I getting this wrong? I feel like I'm talking for too long. I'm really sorry. Really sorry, Red Post. Thank you so much to Red Post for sponsoring the podcast and today's episode. Be sure to go download the Red Post app. Get that discount. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!